back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about cards with you guys. That's what we're going to do today, and I'm excited for it.
Oh, yeah?
David, you're...
Sorry, I missed my cue there.
It's like you're waiting for a specific thing for me to say, and that might be something about the patrons, maybe.
I always love to hear about the patrons, and you know what? I enjoy our patrons a lot. So we have, as of this recording here on the 13th of April, 2021, we have 38 patrons. And I am going to try to read off the patrons in order in which they pledged, newest to most veteran patrons. And I'm going to try to do it in one breath as my usual party trick. I'm going to have to come up with a different party trick, I think. But before I do that, I do want to say, if you love what we do, or if you are mildly interested in the content that you hear, we would love for you to support the show. We have patrons at a lot of different levels. We have 4 different levels, and we're in negotiation for a 5th level now, which we'll keep secret until it's unveiled. But we have a $1, $5, $10, and $20 Ready Teddy level, and you can pledge at any dollar amount, and we're very thankful. Swag this year, you have to be a patron by the month of May. So anytime in May or before, we're going to cut it off, and the swag this year is a significant step up from what it was. But everybody at every level will get a little bit of swag, but the main major big swag will be for the people at the $5 and up level. So having said that, to become a patron, just look right down here. You have patreon.com/cardtalk2018, and you too can help keep the lights on. So now we will read off the lists in one breath.
Good luck.
Right. Ready? 38. Ready? We have thank you to Rachel, Tony, Valentin, Eric, Duran's father. Yes, that Duran's father. Moritz, Anders, Shane, Micah, Chris, Reagan, Robert, Brandon, Scott, Joe, Alex, Edmund, Peter, Niall, Carl, Vardane, James, Joshua, Matt, Russ, Justin, Jason, Robert, Kyle, Daniel, Mike, and Robert. I had to take a breath right at the last second. It's because of our...
You weren't focused.
I know, and I had to give a special shout out to Duran's father, because he became a new patron, and I never think anything strangely when other creators don't become a patron, and I also think it's an honor to have creators be a patron of our show, because it's obvious that they find some value in it and enough to support us. So thank you to Duran's father, or Dan. You can find him in the Facebook group as Dan. And you can find him over at the Vision of the Palantir blog. So anyways, Grant, enough about the patrons. What about the card?
Well, today we are going back quite a few cycles to the Heirs of Numenor, where we are going to talk about the 10 cost, 0 willpower, 1 attack, 4 defense, 4 hit point, Gondor warrior with Sentinel, Beregond, and he has the ability to lower the cost to play weapons and armor attachments on Beregond by the cost of 2.
And before we start talking about this card, what I did is I took kind of the information that we had, or not the information, but the idea that we did for Superlative February, and I sent out a little mini survey where I asked the community what's the best hero defender in the game. And so we had lots of interesting what do I want to say, answers. And to kind of continue the spirit of that, we are going to do a Tactics Beregond, but I'll give each of you one guess as to what 2 other heroes made the list of best hero defender in the game. So
Grimbiorn.
Okay, Grimbiorn the Old is one, so that's your guess. And then Ted, what was
I'm
another?
going to go with Spirit Dane Ironfoot.
Spirit Dine, yes, that's awesome. And so, I mean, and I did this just to kind of dip the toe in the water of seeing how it would go, how people reacted to it. And so we got a bunch of responses. So I'm pretty happy with the stuff, and I will, as we talk about Beregond, I will continue to add feedback that the community has, and we'll do that. But as we get into the card, Grant, you introduced the card, so what is your take on Tactics, Not Spirit, Beregond?
Well, when Tactics Beregond first came out, he was the best defender in the game. He has since been usurped. I mean, his ability is solid. You can get him up with a Gondorian shield up to 6 defense for free at a Spear of the Citadel, and he's doing direct damage. He's 4 hit points, meaning he can survive a hit from the Hill Troll without being boosted. But overall, he's a good defender. I wouldn't say he's great by any standards, but he's definitely in the top running for being good.
He's in the running for being good. That's That's good. That's like your half ratings that you've been giving on the shows recently. Wow. So, Ted, what's your take on
Beregond?
Yeah.
Beregond. He's great. Play him.
He's great.
Thanks for tuning into Card Talk.
Oh, yeah? That's good. Good. Okay.
Tactics Beregond. Yeah, he does certainly have some competition now. I think he is amongst the top 3 defenders in the game for sure. He's a reliable defender for any deck to give you tactics access. And he starts off defending great. He has built-in Sentinel. 4 defense is certainly very high. And with even 1 card...
Ted, that's nothing to sneeze at.
It's nothing to sneeze at. Beregond's ability will let you, with just 1 card, boost his defense to 6, as Grant had mentioned. The Shield of Gondor boosts you up to 6. That's all it takes for 0. So he's got this subtle resource acceleration where over the course of the game you'll probably save 3-4 resources by playing him, somewhere around there, maybe up to 5. He's got a great big list of attachments that can go on him. Those include some that Grant named. We said Gondorian Shield, Spear of the Citadel. Citadel Plate is the 4 cost plus 4 hit point armor. That gets reduced down to 2, which very reasonable to play for 2 to get 4 extra hit points on him. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite cards is the Raven Winged Helm, because that's also a 2 cost armor attachment that you put on a Sentinel hero, and you can exhaust it to cancel any point of damage, which could be from archery, a treachery, or from an attack, and that piece is completely free for him to play. And those are just ones that are in tactics. Those are just in Sphere. There's a bunch of out of Sphere ones as well. So he is an all-around great defender, and I love him. David, do you play him in your solo-ness? Is he your primary?
Well, Ted,
solo defender?
Ted, let me say that you make a lot of really good points in what you're talking about. You know, the built-in Sentinel, his kind of ability to lower the cost of weapons and armor. You know, so I mean so you get the expensive things on him for super cheap. But here's the thing, and you mentioned it as you threw it over to me, is that, you know, when you are playing solo, like Beregond is so so one-dimensional. Like, he is only a defender, right? You're not going to use him to attack, most likely. I mean, not that one attack is anything to sneeze at, but, like you're just...
It is.
I but,
it.
and he's not questing, in most circumstances. So I think that his strength comes in playing multiplayer because you can afford to have a one-dimensional hero more than you can have a one-dimensional hero when you're playing solo. That said, I'm not trying to pan Beregond's defensive ability. Like, he is probably the best defender hero in the game. I prefer Spirit Dine, though. Spirit Dine has 3 defense, but he also has 2 attack, and he's a dwarf, and he can get all those dwarfy things that dwarves get. Not that Beregond can't get those Gondorian things that Gondor gets, but for me playing solo, I prefer Spirit Dine because he's less one-dimensional than Beregond. So when we're talking about what makes a defender, Beregond, of course, is a defender, but he's not going to make it into a lot of my decks because of his one-dimensionality. And I keep saying the same thing over again with hopes that I'm going to get some sort of validation from you guys saying, yeah, Dave, you're right.
Well, I've just got one point to say. There is 2 other heroes that make it above Beregond for being better defenders. Erkenbrand with built-in shadow cancellation, and Grimbeorn because he's an all-round better defender than this guy.
Yeah, and I actually was thinking, Grant, about Grimbeorn when we were talking about Beregond, or when we were discussing Beregond, when I was thinking about doing Beregond this episode. And I was like, Grimbeorn is 2-dimensional. He can defend, but then he attacks back. So he's not, he fills a couple of niches. And so I've said it time and time again, because I'm a solo player, I need to do everything. So when I have a hero that can only do one thing, it becomes a little bit harder to put him in a deck. That said, maybe the most important thing, Ted, you and I have talked about is, defending. So the defense is that important. Yep. I don't know. So
game will go downhill if you do not have a defense strategy. More than anything, you can afford to an extent to not quest. To an extent, you can afford not to attack. And those things will bury you if they go on for some prolonged duration of turns. But the turns where you cannot defend, you will immediately, your game goes downhill, immediately.
Yeah. And I get it, and then, you put on some of the one ring on Beregond, and you give him, what's the defensy one? Inner strength, right? That's in spirit. And so he gets 1 defense, but then he can cancel shadow, and now, you're really doing some good stuff. And then if you're, so I guess I know I'm going to get people, for some reason, since superlative February, I'm getting a lot of people giving me feedback, and I love the feedback. Keep it coming, everybody. I love hearing from you. So, but I'm going to take it on the chin a little bit here, because it sounds like I'm panning Beregond, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form panning him. I'm just saying, for me, the better defender would be Dine. That said, let's talk about Beregond and where he fits in the card pool as a defender. He's going to fit. That's exactly where he's going to be. There's really not any other thing that you're going to put him in your deck for, right? He's going to serve that. So he's going to serve the defender. He's never going to quest. He may attack for you if you have what are some of those attachments that allow him to attack for reasonable Gondor attachments? I'm trying to think.
A really
Dagger,
great one for him is
Dagger, okay.
Yep. Which would be 0 on him as well. The tactics attachment, Gondor Captain of Gondor.
Yep.
Yeah, that goes on a warrior character, and then when you optionally, a warrior hero, I believe, and then when you optionally engage an enemy, it boosts their attack and their defense. Again, he's
Raiment
probably
of War.
defending Raiment of War. Yep. That's great because that's just 0, and that's it. Everything's boosted.
Look, Ted, I know that you really want us not pan Beregond, but you keep sneezing at him.
I sneeze at you.
So obviously you're allergic
and I'm not
to
even
him.
quick enough to mute my microphone when I do it.
That's okay. I'm really good at cutting that stuff out.
Good luck.
So some of the things that the community said, Mark, one of the friends of the show, he said behind strong walls and desperate defense. You know, there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff there, but those, and obviously unexpected courage. Anytime you can ready your defender, like that's, and Ted, when we did unexpected courage, that's exactly, what you had said, that if you're gonna put readying somewhere, put it on the defender, or at least first,
Yep. And especially in multiplayer, if you're playing like a 3 or 4 player game and someone's like, oh, I have this unexpected courage, where does it go? I'm like, Beregond.
Here it is.
I don't like, that's it. Cause he's going to defend. We're going to have enemies and we have to defend them, and he can just do it because he's Sentinel built in. You don't have to wait for that. So just give him an extra defense. Done.
Yeah. And that Sentinel helps him just really defend the board. Like he can just defend the board, right?
Yeah, he definitely shines in multiplayer. Even just a little weaker solo because his Sentinel doesn't do very much. Save gives you access to a couple cards like Raven Winged Helm. You can target him with the event Hold Your Ground, which is one cost event to ready a Sentinel character. So a couple things you can do, but it's certainly much stronger when you can offer defenses to your other players.
Yeah, Gondorian Discipline's also another nice little combo with him if he's about to take damage.
Yeah, I mean, one of the people commented that the Beregond isn't necessarily flashy, but it feels more comfortable when he's on the board. Like he just like
that's a great.
He's not gonna do much.
Comment.
Like I know that he has that discount, and there's some shenanigans you can do with that by, bartering and long like tradering, and like you can bring it in and trade it around and stuff like that. But that's kind of a niche thing. But it was Chris who said, he's not necessarily very interesting, but it's just a relief, and getting Gondorian Shield turn 1 for free on him, it's just like, okay, just feels better.
I'm not going to argue with Chris. That is a good feeling. I mean, when you had a limited card pool, Beregond was the go-to defender. Now, when I look at me binder of heroes, for a defender, I look past him. I go to things like Erkenbrand, Grimbiorn, Spirit Dane, because they all offer an additional benefit. Whereas when I look at Tactics Beregond, yeah, the cost reduction may be nice, but it's not necessary, especially when you've got like stuff like the 4-3 Hunters contract that gives you a reduction innately in itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's not a ton necessarily to talk about when it comes to Beregond, except I think the interesting conversation comes in choosing which one to play. Like, why pick Tactics Beregond over Spirit Beregond? Because Spirit Beregond could arguably be the better defender, especially in solo, because it has that threat reduction, and just any sort of secondary ability. To my point earlier, makes him maybe a little bit better. But why pick tactics over Spirit Beregond? Grant?
Well, I would probably pick tactics over Spirit if I needed access to the tactics icon. Otherwise, I'm going Spirit all the way because that threat reduction is nice. I know it's only once per round, and you need to take no damage from the attack. But if I'm going Beregond, 9 times out of 10, I'm going Spirit.
Okay. Ted, maybe you can answer the question. I'm just kidding. I didn't say which Beregond to pick. I said why play tactics Beregond over.
I told you why. Because of the resource icon, not because of anything else.
Yeah, that's that bottom line from Grant is. I'll agree with that. Is if you're building a deck weighted for tactics, and you're like, okay, I have this idea, and I really want to, I want to have a tactics character and a ranged character. Let's say Legolas, and I want the deck to be weighted in tactics, because I want to splash in a lore hero and have more range, like Haldir. Rather than to go to a 3-sphere deck, you have that choice for to keep your deck sort of more tactics focused because of his resource icon. And again, his reduction helps him get him set up a little bit more quickly because you draw that Raiment of War in your hand first turn, you play it, and then you keep playing. You play that, and you play your 2-cost or 3-cost tactics card, depending on if you have your hero lineup. It makes splashing him easier too if you want to just play tactics Beregond with 2 other leadership heroes that attack or quest. His resources are not so constricted. You draw that Gondorian shield, you play it, you still have 1 resource for a feint or a behind strong walls for like another line of defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you and Grant are saying similar things, and I was going to say also a similar thing is that, maybe Tactics Beregond is the better splash, or is the splashier version. If you're going to want it, I feel like Spirit. Yeah, you could splash. I don't know. I guess the thing that you look at is that there's not really any sort of specific tactics reduction or tactics resource acceleration. Of course, there's Steward of Gondor that you can play, but if you're playing a solo tactics deck, there's no anything that you can do.
Yeah,
right?
the closest
accelerate resources. So this is the thing to do.
You got Hirgon as a hero to reduce your allies, and then you have Moblung to gain resources.
Don't forget Proud Hunters when you kill an enemy.
Yeah, so there's a couple, but there's not many. To David's point, there's very few.
Right, and so if you're looking for, to splash tactics, and you're looking for a little bit of resource acceleration, a pseudo resource acceleration, like this is where it is, and I just think that, this version of Beregond is a beast, Sentinel, and that cost reduction is nice, but it's just, I don't know. I'm still picking Spirit Dying, so I agree with those guys out there. Spirit Dying, you don't have to draw you don't have to draw the Citadel plate or not the Citadel plate, the Gondorian shield first round to defend for 6. You just can defend for 6 with Spirit.
Yeah.
No, you just have to mill the cards from your deck and hope that you don't discard something you need.
Yeah, that's fine.
David, speaking of splashing, I'll just highlight one other really good point or really good use case I found for Tactics Beregond, and to touch on the contracts, I think he interacts especially well with Bond of Friendship because, again, we're talking about splashing and fighting for resources. When you play a Bond of Friendship and you have a 4-sphere deck, you not only free up your tactics resources because all of his cards are free, you have access to other attachments across all the spheres that are weapons, like a hauberk of mail from leadership, for example, gives them 1 defense and 1 hit point. It's not restricted, and it's an armor. So you throw that into your Bond of Friendship deck. Now you have a completely free leadership card, as well. And there's several cases, and pretty much every single sphere has got weapons or armor that can be played on him.
And I mean, he's got 10 threat, so that's not horrible in terms of like one hero having 10 threat in a Bond of Friendship deck. You know, if you're going to go something, and I would suggest with a Bond of Friendship deck, you know, you're going to need a beefy defender, probably, you know, more so than a regular deck, because you have to have 4 different heroes, and getting the resources, like you're going to have tricks to get out beefy defenders like Jabire or something. So, you know, you're going to have a hero who out the gate is a beefy defender, you know, or can defend, you know, pretty well. So that's
yeah.
it.
He definitely changed the game. I think when he came out, Grant was talking when he first came out, and I think it was he was one of those early cards. I remember looking at him and I'm like, a hero dedicated to only defending? I need my heroes to quest and attack. This is nuts. And then you played him and I'm like, how do I play the game without a dedicated hero defender?
Right.
I can't imagine.
Are there, off the top of your head, you know, you guys are like the gurus of the quests. You know, I always forget what the names of the quests are. Are there any particular quest that this version of Beregond shines? You know, like I think of Journey Along the Anduin, where you have a hill troll round 1, and you know Beregond can defend it, no problem. You know, at least 1 round without anything. You know, like he could just take it. Is there other? Are there other scenarios where he just shines, or a defender like him shines?
Well, a Shadow of the Past, when you're engaging all those Nazgul, or any quest where you start off with a big beefy enemy in the staging area, and you've got to take it, more than likely got to take it first round.
Yeah.
Defenders
like of this, like the city guard in the city of Ulfast.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Any sort of quest like that will shine with a dedicated defender, whether that be Beregond or one of the numerous others that we've previously mentioned, would shine doing stuff like that. Some more than others. Beregond's got 4 hit points and 4 defense, meaning he can take a swing of 8, the same as Grimbeorn. Erkenbrand can take a swing of 7. So,
actually, they can take a swing of 7 and 6. If you can take a swing of 8, you're going to lose Beregond.
Well, yeah. But the point I was making is they can take up to so much damage.
Right. He's got a total of 8 defensive things.
Yeah.
How about you, Ted? Do you have any particular... Like, I was also thinking of, what is that, the Dread Realm, where you just engage a ton of those enemies that are coming out? Because 4 hit points is also enough that you can take an undefended from a weenie and put it on Beregond. You know?
Yeah, and a lot of times, Citadel, you know, I used to always run Shield of Gondor, and then for the longest time I ran the Spear of the Citadel to do because that gives him some more flexibility when he's doing damage, when he's defending. But I really like Citadel Plate on him to double his hit points for 2 resources.
Right.
But he's also a really strong siege quester, because he's got of all the Uber defenders, he has the highest to start. And then again, you put that 1 Gondor shield on him. Now he's gonna siege quest for 6.
Right.
And no one else can do that quickly. Because Dane can't do that. His ability is only when defending.
When defending, right? When defending an attack.
Right. So for siege questing, Beregond is a go-to. And you can do either version of him, but again, it's Tactics 1. I guess mustering 1 Tactics resource for a Spear version, not that tough to do, but then you have to splash Tactics. But
Right.
Well,
That's
it
what I'll
depends
mention.
on your deck compilation as
Yep.
well.
So keep them in mind for each question. But other than that, I say we're ready to ring them.
Yeah. Unless you want to keep repeating the same points over and over again.
Grimby
Let's
one's
talk
better.
about Citadel Spear. That's a great point that I'd like to.
Yeah, Spear of the Citadel is definitely a good thing.
Yep.
I don't know. Before we ring, let's just quickly talk about the artwork. What do you think of the artwork on this guy, Ted?
It's wonderful. His face was a little bit too. You really got to look at it closely to make out his face. That was my only problem. Is it's shaded a little too dark for me, but I think his pose and I like his artwork on his tactics version much more than his spirit version.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Huh.
It is
Okay.
a beautiful piece of artwork. You really look at him and you're like, wow, he's like, yeah, he's the dude who's going to defend me. It's going to be this guy.
yeah. He looks really intimidating. Grant, what do you think of the artwork? And it's by Magali, so I mean, it's funny. I always think of Magali as the elf artist, but she's done so many cards in the game. So, but
I like the artwork, and as Ted said, it's a little bit darker than what you can make out. There's been some community alternate art which has lightened it up somewhat and just flipped the image. And I think she's done a really good job with it. The dark blue, the dark bronze or gold, whatever is on his side piece there, it looks really nice. And he's got the Raven Wing helm on already. So maybe we should just start and play with the Raven Wing helm. But no, it's great artwork. Magali has again done an excellent piece of artwork.
Yeah. And lore-wise, do you know who Beregond was?
It depends on which Beregond you mean, because there's been several in the appendix that.
Well, this one I know. So Grant, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this Beregond probably refers to the guard of the Citadel. That there was in the book. There was Beregond was showing the Hobbit Mary.
I think it was
Mary around and Beregond was Burgle's father, and I think Beregond was ultimately the person who saved Faramir when
he has a man crush on Faramir.
Yeah, like I think that he saved Faramir from the pyre when Denethor was going to burn him alive, and then I think Beregond in the book. In the movie, it was Mary, but
it was Pippin in the movie. Yeah,
right. That's what I mean, Pippin. I always get Mary and Pippin. For all this stuff that I try to figure out, I always get Mary and Pippin confused. So, anyways,
well, just as an FYI, did you guys know what Beregond means in Sindarin?
I do not.
It means man of Gondor.
Defender person.
Close. It means bold stone.
Bold stone. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beren being bold and Gond being stone.
Like Gondor is the land of stone.
Yeah.
Mordor is the land of. Anyways, okay. Well, I think we move on to ringing this stone here.
Ring him out.
Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know or is new to the podcast or has forgotten, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring a character on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made. And so, Grant, we'll let you start here. What do you think of Tactics Beregond?
Well, as I said earlier, I think he was great at the time of release. Now he's kind of overshadowed. I always look at him and think, well, could I fit him into the deck? And then I find something that fits my needs slightly better. So I'm going to give him a 5 rings.
5, middle of the road.
Yep.
Okay. Ted, do you wanna argue with Grant a little bit?
I will give Beregond a 2 because he's the defender that defends things, and when I want to do a thing that defends, it's him.
That's really good. Do you want to talk about his defending?
It's very defensive in nature.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Yep.
Okay. And for me, I'm going to give Beregond. I'm not going to be as harsh as Grant, but I'm not going to be as generous as Ted. I'm going to say that Beregond is a 3 because he's a classy defender, but Tactics Beregond is just a little too one-dimensional for my solo play. And I try to play with him. And I have, but I think in my solo decks he's just not, like a lot of people said, he's relieving but isn't very, like, it's just that one-dimensional thing. But I think I agree with Ted about his where you have to have a defender on the board somewhere. And so, but I think that for solo play, for me, there's a couple of better defenders, even Spirit Frodo, which we haven't mentioned, may be a slightly better defender.
Oh, yeah, and there's Elroy here, too. There's several other defenders in the game. Some people still use, like, Lord Denethor. Like, there's a bunch to pick from, but I think Beregond's up there as far as, like, just
and
solid choices.
I think if I played multiplayer, I would probably lean a little more toward you, too, Ted, because that Sentinel keyword literally doesn't do much for solo players. So,
but again, there is so many other Sentinel defenders that do his job, but better.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with Grimbjorn. And even regular Beorn, regular Beorn. We haven't even talked about him. Anyways, all of that to say, is that's our show on Tactics Beregond. We could sit here and talk about all the other defenders in the game, but let's keep it to Tactics Beregond. And we're done with Tactics Beregond. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a good day.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast.
Are you one of those teachers that calls your kids by their last names?
cardtalk2018@gmail.com.
No, I mean, not.
Oh, because I had a teacher who did that, and I loved
like
it.
for real. Sometimes I will, but not like.
He always addressed everybody by their last name.
Oh, really? Well, you're weird. You're weird.
Okay, so maybe we can change it from ready. Maybe we can change it from the Ready Teddy
Grant,
level to the Ready Bannock level.
That doesn't rhyme.
Ready Bannock. Let's see. How about Tantric Bannock?
You guys are really bad at rhyming.
No, that wouldn't work.
They're getting close.
Banana
Look,
hammock.
I think we've had enough of that banana hammocks, okay? Stop with the banana hammock.
Banana hammock bannock.
Yeah, some of the similar consonant sounds in there too. There's a word for that, but I don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, assonance. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Oh, that's so funny. Banana hammock. Banana hammock panic. Oh my goodness.
Pledge $1 million
That's
to a patron level. Head will show up. Head will show up to a Con of the Rings in a banana hammock.
To not see it. Right. No, you won't.